Did you know the first time Urza was mentioned was Alpha, the very first Magic set? It was Glasses of Urza and Sunglasses of Urza that featured the famous Planeswalker for the first time. More cards with Urza's name on them were printed in the second expansion set, Antiquities. Because a fair amount of Magic's earliest artifact cards were named as Urza's possessions, the parody set Unglued continued this theme by adding Urza's contact lenses to go with his glasses and sunglasses. The most famous of the Urza cards are the trio of lands introduced in Antiquities: Urza's Mine, Urza's Power Plant, and Urza's Tower. Each land came with 4 different versions of art. Besides basic land, this was the first time Magic featured multiple versions of art for a unique card. Other cards from Antiquities with this feature are Mishra's Factory and Strip Mine. In Modern, the deck Tron is actually named after Urzatron, which refers to the 3 Urza lands, and Voltron, an anime series from the 1980s. As for Magic's lore, Urza is known as one of the most powerful beings to have ever existed in the multiverse. He was a brilliant artificer from Dominaria and had a brother named Mishra. When the brothers discovered 2 ancient power stones, the Might Stone and the Weak Stone, it corrupted them. Each brother wanted the power stone that the other possessed, and a feud started. The feud grew into the Brothers' War. At the end of the Brothers' War, Urza killed Mishra, ascending into a planeswalker, and Dominaria's Ice Age began. Speaking of the Ice Age, it was the first standalone expansion set in the first Magic block. It released in 1995, and its second set, Alliances, released in 1996. The final set, Cold Snap, didn't come until 10 years later. In Magic's story, Urza caused the Ice Age by activating an ancient artifact called the Golgothian Silex. This artifact released a blast that killed millions of lives, devastated an entire continent, and changed the climate of the entire plane. It was never depicted in any official Magic artwork until about 25 years later, when the game released the card Urza's Ruinous Blast. Illustrated by Noah Bradley, the art shows Urza activating the Golgothian Silex and the decimation of Argoth. The set Exodus featured Urza on the artwork of a Magic card for the very first time. It was the enchantment Mind Over Matter. This card became extremely powerful in Standard, and was banned 1 year after its release. The first time Urza was featured as an actual card was in the 4th Vanguard set. These cards were very much different from normal Magic cards, as they were much larger in size and were played as add-ons, similar to how a general is played in Commander. However, Urza was finally printed as a blue creature in Invasion called Blind Seer. This card depicted Urza in disguise, as he was a mysterious character who appeared alongside Gerard Capuchin and the crew of the skyship Weatherlight during Phyrexia's invasion. Ever since Planeswalker cards were introduced in 2007, many players thought Urza, being one of the most powerful Planeswalkers of all time, would never have his very own Planeswalker card printed. However, Urza did get a Planeswalker card in the 3rd Unset, Unstable, in 2017. With each loyalty activation determined by a random ability at AskUrza.com, a player would receive one of about 20 different effects, all of which were pretty good. Of course, Unstable was a parody set, so Urza Academy Headmaster was more of a joke than an accurate representation. You're probably wondering why the art on Urza Academy Headmaster is only his head. Well, towards the end of the Weatherlight saga, Gerard Capuchin decapitated Urza and grabbed the head with him. He later discovered Urza is still able to communicate with him. Urza told Gerard how to activate the Legacy Weapon to end the Phyrexian invasion. Speaking of the Legacy Weapon, this iconic construct was one of Urza's greatest achievements. For the uninitiated, the Legacy Weapon was a collection of people and artifacts capable of destroying Yawgmoth and the Phyrexians. The story of Urza creating the Legacy Weapon and his plans to stop Yawgmoth's conquest was told in several Magic novels and on the flavor text of cards from a block that was actually named after him. Urza's story would end in his Sacrifice and Apocalypse, the final set of Invasion block. However, his life source would continue on in the artificial golem he created, Karn. It happened when Gerard joined Urza's 2 Power Stones into Karn's body, activating the Legacy Weapon and creating the first artificial Planeswalker. If there was any way to exemplify Urza's power and his impact on the game, it would be from the block named after him. The trio of sets were Urza's Saga, Urza's Legacy, and Urza's Destiny. The block is known for its powerful cards that broke the game in all formats they were played in. During its time in Standard, Urza's Saga mixed with the previous block, Tempest, dominated the format with unfair combo decks, dubbing that time period as Combo Winter. Wizards of the Coast reacted with a slew of bannings in March 1999, but the threat of yet another powerful card called Memory Jar from Urza's Legacy would undo all of their efforts. With the bannings already announced, Wizards had to make an emergency ban for Memory Jar, which was the first banning of its kind the game had ever seen. Besides the Lightning Dragon pre-release promo, Urza's Legacy was the first set to feature premium foil cards. It took Magic a while to enter the foil game because they weren't really sure how to implement them. A lot of other games had foil cards in the super rare slot, which were also known as mythic rares in Magic, and, quote, chase cards for collectors. At the time, Magic did not have mythic rares, so they opted to make foil version of every card in a set. Each box would have 3 commons, 2 uncommons, and 1 rare in foil. Not as powerful as its 2 predecessors, Urza's Destiny did have some standout cards. One of them was Replenish. A card that fits the block's enchantment theme, Replenish was a standard all-star in a deck that ran another Urza's Destiny card called Opalescence. Another famous card from the set was Phyrexian Negator. Today, this creature isn't played as much anymore because of its huge drawback. However, back in 1999, this card was really popular because there weren't many burn decks or creatures being played. Dark Ritual was also legal, so many mono-black strategies would cast the Phyrexian 5/5 as early as turn 1. With no creatures or burn spells, the Negator's controller did not have to worry about sacrificing any of their permanents. The last card worthy of note is Masticore. For a very long time, this card was one of the best creatures in the game, but it had a drawback of discarding a card during the controller's upkeep. Fortunately, Squee, Goblin Nabob solved this problem in a following set, Mercadian Masks. Mark Rosewater's inspiration for Masticore was Mishra's War Machine from Antiquities. His goal was to basically make a better version of that card. Looking at the 2 artifact creatures, you can tell he succeeded. Today, Urza doesn't get mentioned as much as he used to, but in the latest Dominaria set, he does get a couple of cameos. In Karn, Scion of Urza, you can see him on a mosaic in the background, and the sculpture is him in the art of Memorial to Genius. That's all we have on Urza. We hope to tell more about this extraordinary character in a future installment of Did You Know Magic? I'm Nathan Holt, and I've been your narrator for this episode. You can learn more about me by Googling Enter the Battlefield or Walking the Plains. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.